Dank Pod Stash, Hot Tokes number 10, back with Daniel Johnson. And today we're going to talk about the rally yesterday in Richmond at the Capitol and the good and bad from that. A lot of people are disappointed in the results, and a lot of people who are anti, I guess Boogaloo action are crowing loudly about how nobody did anything and it was a success for peace and stuff like that. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about whether it was a success and in what ways it was a success. First, I got a couple articles that'll be in the description here. And because it was largely peaceful at the rally, actually there was only one arrest, and that was a woman who was arrested for being seen by police wearing a mask 3 times. The third time, after they had told her twice, they decided to arrest her. So that was only one arrest there. Otherwise, it was in complete compliance with every edict that Governor Northam of Virginia, passed in every way. People gave up guns to go into the fenced-off, gun-free zone area to supposedly lobby politicians. I guess I had heard that there wasn't even anyone there because it was MLK Day. It was a holiday. But I guess there were some lawmakers in the Capitol. And there was also a group of anti-gun activists from the March for Our Lives group, young people there, I think 17 of them, who had slept overnight in the building there so that they didn't have to interact with any of the pro-gun activists out there. So they were in there lobbying as well. But I don't see this as a success in hardly any way at all, mostly because Ralph Northam has come out claiming success on his end for all the things he put in place, keeping it peaceful, and for all the cops and snipers on the roofs and everything, making it a peaceful day. If anything, if any small success was there, it's that the peace was kept by the people there. And not by the government. So that's the first article I'll put in the description. It's not a long read. It's a short one, but it's Ralph Northam's statement. And I don't know, he thanks people for making their voice heard and whatnot, and we'll see how that goes. The other thing about it remaining the way it did, and I'm not calling for people, killing a bunch of people, blowing shit up, crazy violence or anything. I think noncompliance, even a little bit, would have gone a longer way than this, because now this article, Democrats say rally won't impact their plans for gun control legislation. So tens of thousands of gun right activists from around the country rallied peacefully at the Virginia Capitol on Monday to protest plans by the state's Democratic leadership to pass gun control legislation. And let's see here. An estimated 22,000 people attended. So that's another thing. The numbers have been highly exaggerated, from the 50 to 200,000. There was a really interesting part in this article, though. Well, here's one thing. There's a guy with a white "Come and Take It" with the "Make America Great Again" hat, a white "Come and Take It" flag with a "Make America Great Again" hat posted on the same flagpole. And he says, the government doesn't run us, we run the government. If that was the case, they wouldn't be passing any gun control law, despite 20,000 people showing up and not doing anything. I don't know. Daniel, talk for a minute while I look for this part right here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think this was a success at all. Somebody brought up a good point. A good friend of mine, John, he brought up a good point that this ended up being a statement to the media that gun owners could be peaceful, when it should have been a statement to the world that we can remove tyrants from power. And I thought that was the most eloquently put thing ever. So that's exactly what happened yesterday. Yes, they were peaceful. There wasn't this white supremacy like the liberal media was saying there was going to be. Some people on both sides came together, and they really care about their guns and their right to bear arms, and they came together, and that's great. But they basically complied with everything the governor and the legislature wanted. There was a special area directly around the Capitol building, fenced off, and they had video of a reporter going in, and I understand the reporter going in, but as you went through, you had to give up all your guns, so it was a gun-free zone, and you had to give up like cigarettes and like your tripods and or whatever, but you could have your phone or your filming device, you just couldn't have a tripod. And people were going in, people like Alex Jones, but somebody else made the good point that Alex Jones is just an actor. So it was frustrating to see that they were holding up signs saying we will not comply, yet they complied with everything the government wanted.
Right. And in their
compliance,
and
a lot of people. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
In their compliance, by going there and apparently covering faces or not covering faces was part of complying with the rules laid out. That opened up to the usual, the identification of people that they want on lists by the state. In that article I was reading before I passed it over to you, it says on Monday, Southern Poverty Law Center staff members attended the rally and identified members of extremist militia groups, including the Oath Keepers and Three Percenters, as well as the League of the South, according to Outreach Director Alicia Brooks. The League of the South, which the center designates a hate group, advocates for Southern secession. So if you were there and you had your face uncovered in compliance, you are identified as a dangerous militia group. That's not great. And like I said, just pull down the fucking fence.
Thing we saw was people. Right, exactly. Walk up to the checkpoint that was surrounding the Capitol building and surround it and say, we're not going to comply. We're going to walk in. I don't know. I would love to see them, take the Capitol building.
Yes.
Occupy it.
Speaking of which,
I mean, take it back.
The same people who are disagreeing that would have been a good move are the same people who praised the Bundys for doing what they did at the Bundy Ranch standoff and after, and occupying government buildings. Where's all the call out for that? Are you going to call out people not complying and doing that to save their livelihood on a smaller level? I don't see the disconnect here. Where's the call out for people not complying with Northam's regulations, his kingly edicts here? Because that's pretty much what it comes down to. He's going to get away with whatever he wants to. But I'm sure as you're watching this, there's a lot of people saying, well, you weren't there. What are you doing? I've seen a lot of that. And we're across the country, and I wasn't there. And I think the best response to that is I saved a lot of time and money not going there to stand around and do nothing. I want to address some of the things that people are bringing up when faced with criticism for supporting the way things went. We kind of already covered the one response. They said, a peaceful protest showed them. It didn't. The Democrats in the state government are still planning to push through their legislations. It didn't show anything. The other one, what did you do? You weren't even there. Why don't you go ahead and lead the charge? I always find it funny when people say, why don't you lead the charge? I don't see you doing anything, because they're passing the buck to someone else for not doing the same thing. I understand that nobody wants to rush in a man alone. It's bad strategically at all. And I don't blame any actual Boogaloo boys who were there for not doing anything, because there's a handful of them compared to the thousands of compliant bootlickers and police and everything else that were there. They would have had everybody against them. So I want to make it clear, I'm not blaming anyone who's pro-Boogaloo. That would have been a bad move to do that. It would have been nice to see less Trump, USA flags and all that stuff flying, and knowing that people were going to peacefully comply with everything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I started watching the live stream like 6 a.m. my time here in Utah, and one of the first things I saw was somebody walked up to a Trump supporter, and he said, some of these people showed up in full kit. I don't know why they're doing that. We all agreed that we wouldn't do that. And, he's got a Trump 2020 flag. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't, I don't get the bootlicking. Like, I don't get how they can be there with their guns, and also support Trump. I mean, this guy is verifiably anti-gun, or I should say, verifiably anti our gun rights. Um, so it was frustrating. I understand people not wanting to start something, but I mean, you were there. You went there to make a statement that you could be peaceful. When you have guns, the whole point of having guns is to shoot the fuckers in the face. And again, I'm not. It's hard to ask that of somebody, but the reason you have guns is to shoot a tyrant in the face. So they went there to be peaceful, and it's like, that's not the point of this. The point of this is to um, take back what is yours. Um, I would have liked to see them occupy the Capitol building. If nothing else, I would have liked to see them not march on the streets in the designated protesting spots. They could have easily said, "No, I'm going to march over here."
Yeah.
But they didn't do that, and the whole mask thing was frustrating. The other thing I wanted to bring up was people showed up, and I'm seeing all these pictures of people showing up, and it's like, oh, look, these people came together, and I look at their guns, they're unloaded. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I don't get this mentality. Like, show up, don't say you're not going to comply, and then comply with everything. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that was a strange thing, seeing all the "we will not comply" and then compliance with every law. I think that's the biggest gripe. Like, I don't blame people for not wanting a massive battle in downtown Richmond, although they were 10-1 on the cops despite snipers and all that stuff. It would have been bloody, and nobody wants that. But showing that you're not going to comply is pretty important. And I want to read a quick paragraph from a thing that Sterling Reese wrote that I shared on Facebook. And this is in reference to the people saying it's not time yet. The American Revolution took a lot of time to build up before the shot heard around the world and whatnot. The question is, when is the time? The peaceful protests keep coming and coming, and the infringements keep coming and coming along with them because people don't care, or government doesn't care about peaceful protests. This is just a quick paragraph from Sterling's post in reference to, let's see, in 1776, people starting to organize or 1766, people starting to organize to reform the oppressive system that was in place at that time. And he says one of the problems with the regulators was their main leader, Herman Husband, who was a Quaker and thus staunchly committed to nonviolence. Husband and other such leaders kept the regulators hamstrung by constantly urging them to submit petitions and play the government's game, hoping that acting respectably would earn them sympathy. It did not. Again and again, regulators would show up in force with arms, and the government would tell them if they would only disperse, they would have their grievances taken seriously. Again and again, once they dispersed, their leaders were jailed, hanged, shot, or had their land seized. The North Carolina regulation eventually came to nothing, because when the people had the power to force the government to submit to their demands, they listened to voices of reason who implored them to disarm and disperse. And that's the road it's heading down now. And it's going to be until everyone's backed into a corner. If you look at every time that people have pushed back, and it's almost too late, if not too late. We read about a lot of the victories when people push back in successful revolutions, but there's plenty that have failed as well. And if we see the cycle continuing over and over again in history, why wait until things are as bad as they can possibly be before taking action instead of nipping it in the bud before it gets to that point?
Right. The other thing I wanted to point out was there were all these law enforcement that said they would not, comply with these new government orders in Virginia. Yet you had these law enforcement also surrounding and not allowing these people to protest where they wanted. I understand that some of the police there were Capitol Police, and they were different than the jurisdictions. But it was very telling. It was like your priorities are and your understanding of what is and what isn't confiscation is very skewed. They were I like the meme I saw yesterday. I think it was this morning. It said it was a picture of some sheriffs holding up a banner saying, "We support the Second Amendment," and then right beneath it, somebody put a caption saying, "Unless you have drugs." And it's true. I mean, I guarantee that they're going to do that, and they're going to make excuses. And until people actually fight back, I really thought that yesterday was going to be it. I was hoping that it was going to be it, but instead they wanted to prove that they could be peaceful and come together when that doesn't show anything, because the state doesn't care about that. Governor Northam doesn't care about that, and he made it very clear beforehand. He's going to try and push whatever he wants through, and these people are going to sit back. These people are probably going to keep complaining and keep petitioning. And I have to say, when you petition the government, that is trying to change things from the inside, and that shit doesn't work.
I agree. I want to hear what everybody else thinks about this too in the comments here on YouTube, on the Facebook post when I post this. Let's get the conversation going. Let's get it out there. Why this worked, why this didn't work, and I really want to hear why this worked. If you think it worked, because I think those two articles that we talked about at the beginning of this clip are pretty telling as to how it didn't work. Northam taking credit for the peace, and Democrats continuing to roll through their gun legislation and people getting put on lists. I can't remember who sent me this meme yesterday, but it's a scene from Vacation with Chevy Chase where he's drinking a beer with Russ after the car is crashed. And it says, "At the end of the day, Rusty, none of us can do a damn thing besides share dank memes and buy ammunition. Lots and lots of ammunition." And I think that's a good idea. Keep prepping, because that is a positive thing too. This is, if it didn't kick off yesterday, it gives us more time to prep for when it does kick off. If it does kick off, I don't think it's ever going to kick off in a boogaloo way. Seeing what happened yesterday, if anything, I'm have the idea that it's more of going to be an economic collapse kind of thing. Things are going to get bad with money throughout the world, including the U.S. The bubble's going to pop again, and it's not going to come back. So, I don't know. Stay prepared. Let us know what you think about this. You got anything else before we go, Daniel?
No, just keep prepping. Keep practicing your shooting, and get food storage.
Mm-hmm. And that's not to say either to stop talking to people, stop trying to change minds. Of course, we want to do that first. That's always the first option. Just seeing everything slide further and further into the control of the state is what's worrying. So let us know what you think. Thanks for checking out Dank Dank Podstash Hot Tokes number 10. See you later.